Dre,
They've
you don't
improved
think
on the
we're like
margin.
an auto away? Like we still need a piece?
No.
I think
Here's the
I
thing.
like
We
I
get
like
I
our
really
Otto.
do
strategies.
for a versatility point.
Yes,
We
yo.
get Otto, and we're unbeatable.
That's
But
like
Yeah.
luxury.
100%.
but I
Yeah,
think
It
that's
isn't a
the
luxury.
one I
That's a
want, right?
necessity.
It's a necessity. If we have Otto, bro, come
Total
on.
necessity.
Yeah.
No, necessity to win like 60 games.
I don't
yeah.
think we need him.
No.
I don't think we need him.
No. You got to think about the pieces that the Warriors are going to need come playoffs, right?
Facts.
Now think about all the different ways that they can play these lineups. You have to consider how many different ways you can close a game, right? Their best go-to, and this is Steve's favorite, is the small ball lineup. They still don't have a stretch four to do that. So that's why in a night like tonight, it's a problem. Because you're going with like tiny lineup instead of a good small lineup.
Jim, we don't need Otto. I'm telling you. Here's what we need. We need more Saric, TJD.
Right? Who's
We
closing?
need more Sar. I don't think we even need a close. Like,
In the playoffs,
we-
you don't think they need closers?
Yeah.
no,
close
we
the game.
do. We do, but I don't think we'll close
Okay,
that many games.
who qualifies for that? That's my
Who
question.
would qualify? Honestly, I think we have one guy for the job, and I think he's good enough. I don't think we need GP too.
JK?
That's all we need.
Oh yeah, GP.
Jim,
You think?
I agree.
Sometimes
we have one guy for the job. Yes, he's undersized, but he's literally the best at what he does in the NBA. It's either him or Caruso, or one. They're up there because
I
Caruso
don't
did it.
disagree with you, but I don't like
Yeah.
Wiggins at the 4 to close.
Well,
When
here's the
when you're
problem.
playing the most elite teams, that's far from ideal. You don't
Here's
want
the problem, though. How are you going to get a 6'8" wing who can shoot 40%, rebound at a high level, and play within our offense?
trade.
And who are we trading?
I don't know if you realize. I don't know if you realize this, but
Yeah.
the Warriors
man.
have a depth problem. They're too deep, and there's too many guys that can't play. Right? Simultaneously, I mean, you want to talk about who we need, who should we trade? Let me ask you a very simple question, and people might not like this, but it's just a matter of fact. Okay, if you had the choice, are you taking Otto for this year, or are you taking JK for this year? Which one is it?
Oh, that's tough.
To guarantee me
I just
five,
don't like lottery picks.
You know what?
Honestly, I don't know. Because,
You don't know.
yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
Otto's.
Do you
like,
think
he
Kuminga
refines
is
it.
going to close playoff games?
If you told me tomorrow the playoffs are
season.
starting, it's a no-brainer. But I don't even know,
Yes. Yep.
part of getting
I
healthy,
agree with you.
part of getting to the playoffs healthy is a big deal. Like, okay, if you told me in the trade deadline that, well, here's the thing though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just want to, Dre, disclaimer. This is super early, but this
Yeah.
is how my mind works. That's why it kind of came up. I don't know how do you say your name?
No, he's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, you brought it up, and honestly, in the playoffs, you need major, reliable, go-to finish lineups, multiples, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
You know how much I like TJD. I don't see him closing.
Yeah.
We like Saric. I don't see him closing. And if they're closing with either of those guys, there's going to be flaws. Okay, they
I agree.
flaws there.
What about GP2?
Obviously, I don't
Yeah,
want
he
to
can-
close with him. So, having said that, how many options do they actually have to close games in the final 6-7 minutes of the finals, the Western Conference Finals, whatever? You got to understand, you have to have the most elite pieces, especially at the power forward position next to Draymond. You fuck that up, you literally saw what happened last year.
Dre, I can say something about GP2, even though we love GP2. Maybe it's health related, but I didn't like the fact that he didn't close that game 4 against the Lakers. And if that's gonna cause, like, if I don't know for sure that he's gonna close, then I'd rather get that guaranteed closer. If you get what I'm saying, Moody
He
closed
said
over
surgery though.
in game 4. No, but he was playing in game 4, and Moody
what
was
I'm-
closing over him.
So
If
what
you
I'm saying
remember.
is, we all want Kuminga to do well, but he's not a closer. He's not going to be a closer this year. He's not going to close against the best competition, the best teams on the planet. He's not going to be closing. So I think that's pretty clear as day.
It's just like a
guy who-
auto, yeah.
A guy who's inconsistent coming off screens, a guy who's inconsistent from stretching the floor, a guy who's questionable at making decisions when he has the ball, a guy who's questionable as a help defender at power forward, you're not going to run that guy deep into the playoffs. You're lying to yourself if you're saying that. And if you're saying that, you're okay with risking and jeopardizing everything that's on the line for the Warriors with a gamble. You don't gamble with your closing lineup pieces. That's where the dilemma is. And this is something that I may address more down the line as the trade line approaches, depending on how things are looking. But no matter how you slice it, they need that reliable stretch four. It has an option to close games, to have somebody alongside Draymond that is absolutely reliable in being able to rebound and doing all these things, the prerequisite, the basics that you have to be able to cover against these elite teams. You mess up 2-3 times doing those things, you're going to get screwed. Like, you can't mess up like that in the finals. You can't mess up like that in that kind of setting. Again, we saw it last year, and we can't make that same mistake again. So if you're serious about the notion that the Warriors are going to win the championship, you need various pieces. Just GP2 is not enough because there's a size issue there. You don't want Wiggins closing at the 4. That is far from ideal.
Jet, let's say if Otto isn't available, who would you want to pursue then?
If Otto isn't available,
yeah, if you want that, like that stretch for someone who can kind of fill the needs that Otto was able to do in 22. Like, if Otto, let's say if he still has let's say if he's still pretty damn injured, and if he's not available, if he's like not willing to move, or at least Toronto's not willing to deal him or something to us, who would be someone that you'd want to look at?
Would you sign Rudy back?
I mean, even Rudy is a better option because he can play the 4. That, to me, the bottom line is, can you play the 4 and can you be a good defender at the 4 and make good decisions at the 4? If you can do that, I will be interested. In terms of who specifically, I mean, I would have to scour and see what kind of guys are.
I feel like that's kind of a rare commodity.
There's the only one.
I don't think it's that rare.
Not super, but at least
Nick Batum is the next.
In terms of being able to bring it during high leverage situations, because there are lots of players who I feel like, let's say for example, like, honestly, wait, no one really comes to mind right now, but like
Batum.
Yeah, no, but like, are they at that level? Like,
he is at that.
Yeah,
Batum is
would you still consider him like you'd still consider him at that age to close, like?
Do you see
Batum is way healthier.
What he's doing with the 76ers? Like, the guy's a walking positive. So
Yes, solid for them, solid, 100%.
You need walking positives. That's all you need.
He's one of the few that can actually.
You don't need Manu. You don't need like a really good guy.
I know. I'm just trying to gauge what, like, at what level is kind of acceptable for, at least like to meet that prerequisite as you're saying, right? So
okay, maybe young one. Okay,
let's think about this, man, because Kuminga, like, he has value. Kuminga is number one if a team wants him, right? And I would think a lot of teams will be interested in his potential. Not necessarily championship caliber teams, because he's still inexperienced, right? We see that as the season is going on with all the inconsistencies. Obviously, he's capable of doing some good things on the floor. We've seen it. We've seen him help the team come back from a scoring standpoint. But if he was more solid across the board from first half to second half, they wouldn't be trailing and trying to come back and all these things against these mediocre teams. They would just be blowing them out, right? So that's what I see from Kuminga so far. And if you say, what if Otto's not available? But I wonder if they actually talk to Toronto, because Toronto's not that serious of a team, right? And they can get an asset like JK for a guy like Otto, who, like you say, is like, is he going to be able to stay healthy and all this kind of stuff? And they match up salary wise. To be honest with you,
how much is Kuminga making this year?
I would have just kept Otto the whole time. I would have traded Kuminga before I traded or I let Otto walk, because Otto is a proven piece. It's the same thing with GP2. So I just think that it would be a completely different situation right now. I know it's an uncomfortable conversation, but if you want to win the championship, you need these pieces. And Kuminga's not ready for that yet at 20, 21 years old.
I see your point from a practical standpoint, because just in terms of fit, right? Okay, Otto is someone who has the experience, someone who's been able to close with us, right? So that definitely makes, but at the same time, do you feel like the value of do you feel like Kuminga's not gonna kind of get into that role? Obviously, like, okay, yeah, we see him as a 3, but do you see, like, is there like no chance that JK can kind of turn into someone who'll be reliable when it comes to closing situations later in the year? Let's say not necessarily now, but later in the season. Do you think that the upside for that at the end of the season?
No.
Okay.
For me, the answer is no. I don't see it, because the stuff that you want him to improve on and become better at on a consistent basis, and just fundamentally understand things like this the moment it happens, like not even just the moment it happens, before it happens, because you know what's going on, and you know what's going on at the highest level. He's not getting these things against mediocre teams, and so you can't expect him to be ready by the time they reach the playoffs against the highest level teams to play with that level of consistency. That's just not realistic. That's not how players developments, like, that's not how it works. That's like thinking Wiseman is gonna, by the end of the year.
But okay, it's not that bad, to be
It's
fair.
kind of
No. I'm not
natural
saying it's that
instinct.
bad.
He's
I'm
talking about natural
certain
instinct.
fundamental things, right?
Yeah,
Things.
yeah.
No,
They don't develop within a year. What if he came into this season and defensively he's more or less the same as a 4 as last year? Then that's just not going to change by the end of this year. It's not.
Okay,
it's going to take a few more years
I just want
to really get the hang of that, right? And that's okay. That's how young players, like I say this to you guys often, but Wiggins took a long time to develop, and he's a number 1 overall pick. Even when he came to the Warriors, he still had like bad habits, so they needed to get that fixed up, and they did.
When do you think?
By that time, he was 26.
Yeah. So I mean, like, when do you think, like, how long do you think? I mean, obviously it varies for a bunch of different people, but let's say if Kuminga was dedicated to kind of like working on those aspects, do you, like, in terms of a timeline, what would you kind of predict or something like that? Because if you think, it's not in the coming
I
year,
think it's too late for the Steph Curry timeline.
oh, as in that far ahead.
Yes.
Okay. So I think, let's say if I feel like I would start to, like, kind of get like a little, like, okay, maybe I'll consider if maybe by the All-Star break or something like that, where he isn't necessarily, like, let's say if he's playing like he is now, come All-Star break, I wouldn't necessarily be the happiest, but because I expect him to continue to improve throughout the season.
Are you talking about Kuminga right now?
Yeah.
Okay. This is not a good start for him, and again, it's because he can't play power forward. I mean, he's shooting 44% from the field, 23% from the 3-point line. I mean, he's actually regressed from last year. If you want to look at it, 2.9 rebounds. He's taken a leap from a scoring standpoint, but he hasn't taken a leap from the standpoint of what the Warriors need from him.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
it's tough.
And it's unfair that obviously that he plays the 4 when he's able to,
that final possession against OKC where they relied on him to get a final stop, and then you saw what he did.
Yeah,
That's unfathomable coming from a championship. If you're
he jumped and fouled Dort.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Got lost on the screen. The communication on the screen with Wiggs up top. Where
which possession was it?
Against OKC
Where Dort got the backdoor cut.
in the final defensive possession, remember?
Yeah, this is when they fouled him and he split the free throws?
Right.
Yeah.
But that happened because he completely lost Dort.
Yeah.
He was supposed
Then
to
it
stay
was on your
connected
breakdown
to Dort.
on YouTube.
They
On
had
YouTube,
to-
I
they had
watched
to
that.
come-
Yeah. Okay.
They had to come and help on Dort's drive because Kuminga lost him. He didn't communicate with Wiggins that that the screen is coming and there's gonna be a switch. Like that's the communication that the power forward has to make because he sees the floor before Wiggins, who's up top. So, I mean, ideally both of them are communicating in that way, but that's a switchability lineup. And for Kuminga to die that badly on that play, imagine if that happened in the finals, bro, or in the playoffs, and the game is on the line, and you're doing that. This is ridiculous. You can't put him in that position because he's not ready for it, number one. But that fact alone makes him an unreliable piece come playoffs to be like playing clutch minutes or anything along those lines. He's too much of a gamble, a risk. You don't know what to expect from him. It might be good, it might be shit. That's not a closing piece. That's not even close to being a closing piece. I'm sorry, it's not. So the way I see it, there's complications because of him and the need for him to play, when we all kind of feel it in our hearts that Moody is a better fit for this team. His composure, the way he comes up big time under certain situations, and just making big plays even from a defensive standpoint. I still have yet to see Kuminga make like this like memorable defensive play where you're just like, holy shit, this guy did that. Can you guys remember any play like that from him?
No. He's more of an on-ball guy.
So you see the problems that I'm talking about, right? So it's a little naive to think that we can go into the playoffs as is and think that there's not going to be complications. Playing CP3 to close a game is a complete complication. I don't want to do it at all. Playing Sarge is basically a no. Defensively, like there are too many possessions where he could be a cone, especially if you saw what the Cavs did to him. They hunted him, and they had to take him out because he was unreliable as like somebody who's constantly being picked on. So you see the problem there. So CP's out, Sarge is out. TJD, as great as he is shown to be, he has no playoff experience. I'm not gonna rely on that to close a game. It depends on the matchups too, but the way he bounced off of Jokic like that, I don't like that, man. And then from even a free throw standpoint, going like 1 for 6 the way he did the other night from the free throw line, you can't have that. You see, it's not easy to pick up these pieces that can just be rock solid and you know that they're not going to hurt you in some detrimental way. And that's why it's so important that they pick up that piece. And they don't have that. They still don't have that. So the best thing they have going into the playoffs, if they want to go the small route, is Wiggins at the 4. And that's not good enough. His strength is at small forward, POA. He made his name as the second best player, as the guy who guarded Tatum, as the guy who guarded Luka, as the guy who guarded Ja, stuff like this. He didn't make a name for himself playing a stretch 4. That's not how he became the second best player on the Warriors. Right? Can we agree on that?
100%.
Okay, so let's not put him in a compromising position where he's playing out of position to close the game and he's not able to get this rebound that they need to get over this bigger guy, and then we're just like, fuck, we needed that rebound and he couldn't get it. Trey, are you listening to all this? Am I making sense to you when I talk about like?
I hear you. I think it might be a bit premature, but I hear you.
Okay.
I got to see more. I got to see more of Kuminga. There's a delicate balance between. Anthony Edwards said he wants the Warriors in the playoffs. Good. I want him too. Pause. No, I think, yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. It logically makes sense.